During the first 5 days, the follicles are still developing. Can you see here? The follicles are still developing. When it reaches the isthmus, at that time the sperm has to reach that isthmus as well. It has to be delivered into the female uterus and it has to reach the isthmus. So the blastomeres, which is present in the blastocyst, is arranged into an outer layer. Can you see? It gets arranged in the form of an outer layer. So this towards the outer layer, the cells will get arranged in a blastocyst. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session on concept class for class 12th biology. I'm Dr. Divya, biology faculty. So in this session, that is session 4 of human reproduction, we will learn about fertilization and the implantation process, and also we'll learn about the menstrual cycle. Previous session, we had learned about the formation of the sperms and the formation of the ova. Now, here, if the ova or the egg has to be released from the female, then they have to undergo a process called as menstrual cycle. So, what is this menstrual cycle? So, menstrual cycle is nothing but the cyclical changes that occur once the reproductive organs have reached maturity, especially in primate females. That is, in primate members, female members, be it monkeys, apes, human beings, etc. Here we have to learn about two important definitions as well. One is menarche and the other one is menopause. Now we learnt about menstrual cycle, that is, it is cyclical events that occur in the reproductive organs of the, that is especially in the uterus of the female primates during the ovulation time. What is menarche? Menarche is nothing but the first menstruation that a girl gets during the puberty or at the start of the puberty is called as menarche. What is menopause? Menopause is nothing but the word itself says pause, pause meaning a stop, right? So, menopause is nothing but menstrual cycle that stops once the woman reaches the age of 50 years and above. So, that is called as menopause. So, menarche is the beginning of the menstrual cycle. Menopause, that is the stopping of the menstrual cycle. So, moving further, let's study about the phases of the menstrual cycle. That is, at what stages, when ovulation occurs, during which stage of the menstrual cycle and all that. So, it has different phases. First one is the menstrual phase. Then comes the follicular phase. Follicular phase is called as the proliferatory phase because it is at that time that the ova or the egg gets produced. Next is the luteal phase, that is the secretory phase. Next comes the menstrual cycle. So, to begin with, so different days we are calculating here, that is, it is taken in 28 days. So, 1 to 28 or 29. Again, after 28 or 29 days, again we go back to 1. That is why monthly menstrual cycle happens, right? So, here they have marked it as menstruation, follicular phase. So, first one, this is the first stage, right? That is the menstruation phase. This is the second stage, which is the follicular phase. Next is the third stage, which is the luteal phase. Next is the new cycle or the new menstrual cycle begins. So, what happens during the process of menstruation? So, menstruation can be for 3 to 5 days. So, that is why they have marked from 1st to 5th, because it can last from 5th to 5 days, and during menstruation, menses or bleeding occurs. Up till which date? Up till 1st to 3rd or 1st to 5th. Some people can have it for 3 days, some can have it for 5 days. On the other hand, if you can see here, they have given uterine activities. That is, during each of these phases of the menstrual cycle, what happens in the uterus, what we need to study here. Next, they have given what happens to the ovarian hormone levels during the menstrual cycle. Next, here they have given different ovarian events that occurs in the ovary. Next, they have given the pituitary hormone levels. All that we need to consider. So, talking about the menstruation. So, day 1 to 5. So, from day 1 to 5, what happens? It is nothing but the shedding of the wall of the uterus will happen. So, that is the uterine events that occur here, and also bleeding will occur. So, during the 1st to 5th day, the progesterone is not that high. It is not that high. It is in a stagnant position. The estrogen is also in a stagnant position. And during the first 5 days, the follicles are still developing. Can you see here? The follicles are still developing. Next, after the menstrual flow stops, whatever follicles were developing, they will, that is from 7th to 13th. So almost from 7th to 13th, what happens here is, that is from 7 to 13 also here, progesterone is in the same level, no increase in the progesterone. Estrogen slowly starts to, the production of estrogen slowly starts increasing and the follicles will start to mature. And once the follicle matures, somewhere in the 14th day, if you can see here between 13th and 15th, especially in the 14th stage, the ovulation, that is the release of the ovary or the release of the ova or the egg from the release of the ova or the egg from the mature follicle will take place. Now the ova or the egg has been released. So when the ova or the egg is being released, if copulation occurs and if the sperm goes and fuses with the egg, then the next menstrual cycle will not happen. If that process of copulation doesn't happen, or if the process of fertilization of the sperm with the egg doesn't happen, then it will enter into the next stages. In the next stages, which is called as the luteal phase, there the corpus luteum will start developing and it will start progressing. So that will happen. So corpus luteum will start developing, and if fertilization will not occur, then corpus luteum will start regressing and the follicle will just get degenerated. No fertilization will occur. If that happens, then the next menstrual cycle will begin in the 29th day. That is, after 29 days, again the menstrual cycle will start. So this is what happens. So during this time, what happens? The follicle stimulating hormone will be produced in the 1st to 5th days. Then luteinizing hormone is also produced, and the luteinizing hormone will reach a peak during the ovulation period, and then it will again subside. So this is what continues. So moving further, we'll study in detail. So primary follicles in the ovary grow and become fully mature. So as I told you, the menstrual flow occurs and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. So during that time, what happens? Why bleeding occurs? Bleeding occurs because of the breakage in the endometrial walls of the uterus. That is, uterus we had studied in the second session. That is, in the uterus it is covered by 3 membranes, right? The perimetrium, the myometrium and the endometrium. Endometrium is the innermost lining of the uterus. So if fertilization doesn't occur and if that fertilized egg doesn't embed in the uterus, then the endometrium will start to shed. So that if shedding doesn't occur, it can lead to certain cancers and all that. So that has to happen every menstrual cycle if fertilization doesn't occur, because thickening of the endometrium might result. So therefore it will start to break. So when the endometrial lining starts to break, the uterus, that is blood vessels that are there, that is also shed up, that will shed the blood that comes out through the vagina. So that is what happens in day 1 to 5. So moving further, next what happens in day 1 to 5, the primary follicles in the ovary that are there, they'll become fully matured Graafian follicle. So that formation of the Graafian follicle of course happens after the 5th day. So in the first 5 days, the follicle starts developing. After that, the developing follicles will become mature and they will form Graafian follicle. Then again here, the endometrium of the uterus will start to regenerate. Why it has to regenerate is because if at all fertilization occurs, then it has to hold the fertilized egg properly in the uterus for that. And these changes, that is the thickening of the endometrium or the formation of the endometrium and all that, will increase the level of the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone and the estrogen hormones. Now the follicle stimulating hormone, it will control the follicular phase. So entire follicular phase is controlled by the follicular stimulating hormone, and it actually, that hormone stimulates the growth of the follicle, and apart from that it also stimulates the secretion of the estrogen. Next, the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone reach their peak level in the middle of the cycle. As I told you, that is in the 14th day, they will reach the peak. Why? Because it is at that time the rupturing of the Graafian follicle has to take place and the ova or the egg has to be released. So they'll get released, and after that high level of LH induces the rupture of mature Graafian follicle and it releases the ova. That is, for ovulation, what is important? Luteinizing hormone. High level of luteinizing hormone is very important. After that, what happens here is the remaining parts of the Graafian follicles that is there, they will get converted into the corpus luteum. Now, this corpus luteum, again, it secretes a large amount of progesterone, and this progesterone is very, very important for maintaining the lining of the endometrium. Enough progesterone is not secreted means, again, shedding of the endometrium can happen and the next menstrual cycle will start. So, that should not happen, because if the fertilization occurs, this should not happen. So, that is why. But if fertilization doesn't occur, then the corpus luteum will get degenerated and it will cause the breakage of the endometrium lining. The blood vessels will start bleeding. Therefore, again, menstrual cycle will start. That is again after the 29 days. So, this whole process which occurs inside the uterus of the female is called as the menstrual cycle. Next, we know that this is the time, that is on the 14th day, the ovulation will happen. So, on the 14th day when the ovulation occurs, it is time for the sperm to fertilize the ova. If the sperm fertilizes the ova, then the next menstrual cycle will not happen. If it doesn't fertilizes the ova, then the next menstrual cycle will begin. So, we're talking about fertilization and implantation. So, the process of fusion of sperm with ova or egg is called as fertilization. And the fertilization can occur only if the ova and the sperms are transported simultaneously. And it has to move where? It has to reach where? Both the sperm and the ova should reach the isthmic junction. So, the ova is released by the ovary. It will move to the finger-like projections that are there, and then it will move into the infundibulum, which is funnel-like. Then from the infundibulum, it has to go to the isthmus. When it reaches the isthmus, at that time, the sperm has to reach that isthmus as well. It has to be delivered into the female uterus and it has to reach the isthmus. So, next what happens here is, once the sperm reaches the isthmus and also the ova reaches the isthmus, the fertilization, that is, the sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida, which is a layer covering the ova or the egg. Then it comes in contact with the zona pellucida and it induces some changes in the membrane that blocks the entry of the additional sperm. So, that is why only one sperm fertilizes with the egg. The sperm that is the fastest, whose mitochondrial energy is too much, that will swim very fast, reach the isthmus. There, once the ova is already ready there, it will go and fuse itself with the zona pellucida, and that zona pellucida, some changes will occur so that only one sperm will get fused there, and the other sperms that are there, they will get disintegrated. Now, the sperm head, what is that? In the sperm head, that is, which is called as the acrosome, so we have studied where the acrosome is present and all that in the previous session. So, lot of enzymes are being secreted, and that enzyme helps the sperm to enter into, or the sperm head to embed itself in the cytoplasm of the ova or the egg. So, once embedded in the cytoplasm of the ova or the egg, the second meiotic division will result in the formation of a second polar body and a haploid ovum will get produced. Now, the nucleus of the sperm and the ova, they fuse together to form the diploid zygote. So, I hope you have understood. So, what happens? This is the zona pellucida layer of the ova or the egg. So, this zona pellucida layer, a lot of sperms will be swimming. Once one sperm get embedded, some activities will take place here wherein it will prevent the other sperms from coming and embedding itself in the cytoplasm of the ova. Once embedded, what happens? Next, the process of fertilization is complete and the zygote formation will occur. So, this is about the events. Now, we'll talk about, now the sperm has fertilized the ova or the egg. That is, it has embedded itself in the cytoplasm of the ova and it has got converted into a zygote. That is, after fertilization, zygote gets formed. Now this zygote that is there, it will, all this process till now, where did it occur? It occurred in the isthmus of the fallopian tube, okay. So from there the zygote, what is zygote? How did it get formed? It got formed because of the fusion of the ova with that of the sperm. So now that zygote will move from the isthmus and then it will start implanting itself. So what will happen? The zygote will develop into blastomeres, that is 2, 4, 8 and 16 daughter cells will get formed. So first we have, this is the ova with the zona pellucida and all that. Now the ova has entered, it has fused here, forming the zygote. Next, the zygote will undergo 2-cell stage, 2-cell stage, 4-cell stage, then it will undergo 16-cell stage. So the 16-cell stage is nothing but the morula. It's called as the morula. So this morula that is there, so as you can see here, can you see here? This is the ova, then the fertilization will occur wherein one sperm will get embedded in the cytoplasm of the ova, the other sperms will get degenerated. Now it formed a zygote. The zygote will form a 2-cell stage or 2-cell blastomere, then a 4-celled blastomere, then a 8, then a 16. Now the 16-celled blastomere that is there, it is called as the morula. So the morula that is there, it will continue to divide and it will transform into a blastocyst. Now the blastomeres in the blastocyst. So this is the blastocyst. It will get converted into a blastocyst. So the blastomeres which is present in the blastocyst is arranged into an outer layer. Can you see? It gets arranged in the form of an outer layer. So this, towards the outer layer, the cells will get arranged in a blastocyst, and outer layer trophoblast and inner group of cells attached to the trophoblast. So it will have the outer trophoblast, so this is the inner trophoblast, and a group of cells will go and attach itself to the outer trophoblast. So this blastocyst that is there, after its formation, the trophoblast that is called, because the cells, the blastomeres will go and attach to the trophoblast, right? That is the outer layer. It gets attached, that trophoblast that is there, it will get attached to the endometrium. Now this we can call it as the trophoblast also, or blastocyst. Anyway, trophoblast, it will go and attach itself to the endometrium. Can you see? That is the wall of the inner wall of the uterus. So if this attachment and all that doesn't take place, no, then next menstrual cycle will happen. Otherwise, all this process will not at all occur. Here only the ova will get degenerated and the shedding of the endometrium will take place. But now, because fertilization has occurred, all these stages will happen. So that is why. And the inner cell mass get differentiated as the embryo. So the uterine cells rapidly divide and cover the blastocyst. So this is about the implantation. Where do they go and implant themselves or bind themselves? They get implanted themselves in the endometrium, that is the inner lining of the uterus. So the trophoblast, that is, this portion gets embedded. Now what happens to these inner cells? Inside these cells were there, now what happens to them? So the cells present inside, they get differentiated to form the embryo. The embryo will form the fetus and further fetal development will start to happen. So this is about the fertilization and implantation process. So this was about the session wherein we learnt about the menstrual cycle, and also we got to know how fertilization occurs and how the implantation of the trophoblast along with the cells inside the trophoblast to the walls of the uterus, that is the endometrium of the uterus, will occur. So in the next session, we'll talk about pregnancy. So after that implantation and the formation of the embryo, the next pregnancy stages, that is the first, second and the third trimester, what happens in each of these stages. We'll study about the pregnancy and the embryonic development, and after the childbirth, or we'll study about parturition, that is about childbirth, and we'll study about lactation, that is the formation of milk in the mammary glands. So this we'll look into in the next session, which is the last session of this chapter. So I hope you found the session useful. So we shall meet again in the coming session discussing these topic. So see you in the next session. Thank you.